once upon a time, down the street, I saw this guy and he was going to the park, so I decided to follow him for absolutely no reason. I went to the park, and there was this little kid, he was selling lemonade for $20 a cup. I said, hey, that's way too much for that little amount of lemonade. He said, not this kind. This kind's worth $20. So I started to drink it, not intending to pay for it at all, of course, because it's too much. It was only a little tiny bit. It was like one of those little Dixie cups that you get, and you're gonna like brush your teeth with, and then rinse your mouth out with a little Dixie cup. So I drank it, and he was right. So I punched him, and I stole all of his lemonade. I tried to run away with all the lemonade, though. I spilled it because I tripped. Because he had made a homemade lemonade stand, and the lemonade stand broke when I kicked it and slammed it and punched it. Things will break when you do that to them. But I tried to run away after doing this, and that's when my shoelace got entwined with a nail that was hanging off the side of his lemonade stand, and it broke it into a million pieces. And the kid was impaled and died instantly. And that's when the child's father, seeing this happening from across the field at the park, came running over, enraged, and grabbed me by the throat. And he said, hey, I built that lemonade stand with my bare hands. You better help repair that. So then, I had to go down to the hardware store, and I had to help him find the proper lumber, because it wasn't just any old wood that the lemonade stand was built out of. It was special lumber that comes from the underground caves of Bokoslavia. Luckily, they had just enough to build another lemonade stand. But the man said, when he had finished building it the last time, he thought that was the last lemonade stand he would ever build in his life. So he threw his hammer into the lake. He had no hammer anymore. But being pressed for time, he didn't want to get just another hammer. So we had to ask the clerk where we could find a hammer gun. And he said, what do you mean? And I told him, a hammer gun. It shoots out the nail, and then immediately shoots out a hammer behind it to drive the nail into the wood that you shot at. It's incredibly dangerous and highly illegal. So he said, oh, yes, of course, we have plenty of those in stock. Which he showed me, and we bought several. The man and I went back to the park and pushed his son and lemonade stand out of the way so we could build the new lemonade stand. We started building the lemonade stand, and I started shooting my hammer gun. And the man, not wanting to see the wood hurt, dove into the way of the nail gun and the hammers. He was killed immediately. Not having to build the lemonade stand anymore now that the man was dead, I left and went to the lake. I dove in, trying to find his old hammer. His old hammer was still on the shore. I found out after 5 hours of diving. He thought he had thrown it in, but I guess he was so overexcited, he never threw it at all. He just dropped it. So I went back to the lumberyard hardware store, and they said that if I have any more of my hammer guns, I can return them for a full refund. I said that I do, and so I did. And the man came out from the manager's office. He said thank you, and I left. I went back to the park, and I found the little boy. I took his corpse, and I threw it into the lake. But it didn't go into the lake. It floated on the water. It floated there for several years, until the police came by, and they said, hey, we heard a long time ago that there was a murder here. Accidentally. Meaning we accidentally heard about it, not that there was an accidental murder. And we just wanted to know if you knew anything about it happening 57 years ago. I said, yeah, I remember that. I remember it like it happened yesterday, which did. And so we went out into the lake, and there was the boy's lake body floating. Because that's what they called it down the street. When a body's floating in the lake, they call it a lake body. And the water had gone into his eyes, but the rest of him was bone dry, and we thought that was weird. So we pulled it out of the lake, and put string on his fingers to see if they would float. We lit the strings on fire, and the boy got up and ran off screaming, saying, I'm burned, I'm burned. And we all laughed and drank hot cocoa. The police don't eat donuts and coffee anymore. I found that out that day. They only drink hot cocoa now. It saves time. Once, a policeman shot me in the toe. Said it would help me get stronger. I got stronger that day and punched him. But punching him was a bad idea because he shot me in the other toe. And that one did not make me stronger. One day, I was down at McDonald's, and the policeman came out of the bathroom and he said, boy, that felt good. I didn't know what he meant because I saw Ronald McDonald on TV advertising McDonald's food. Now I know. I had chicken McNuggets that day, and they were very good, except for the fact that they were not good, and I'm lying. Back at the park, where I shot the boy with the hammer gun, and the boy's father with a hammer gun. I made some more lemonade, and I drank it, and I went home. I told my goldfish this story one time, and he jumped out of the water and karate chopped me in the forehead and said, "Don't lie, because lying is for the elderly." I said, "You don't know what you're talking about, goldfish." And he said, "You're right. I better get back in the water. This air is making me delirious." And then he jumped back into the water, so I flushed his tank down the river with my giant flushing mechanism. Flushing mechanisms can be sold at any store that carries me. This is where I bought mine, at the local hardware store.